Hey, everyone. Is it possible to biohack your DNA? Is it possible to biohack your genetic code? So, if what I'm telling you right now you know nothing about, if you have never heard of nutrigenomics, if you have ever heard of anything in this sort, in this arena, you are about to hear something incredible. So I've invited a guest on with me today. I'm going to see if she can hop on before we get into there she is. So I've invited Amy Holmwood on this live with me today. And boy, this woman is on fire. She's incredible. And I was just explaining to my mom earlier today that she's probably one of the smartest people I know. Literally, guys. Businesswoman, entrepreneur, and knows all about this whole arena of biohacking the body. Can we change our DNA, or are we predestined to live our genetic code that our parents are passing down? And if it's good or bad or whatever it may be, we need to have this conversation. So thank you, Amy, for hopping on today.
Thanks for having me, Jenny. Excuse me being in the car. I was supposed to be at my destination, but we still have a little traffic up here and heading to Pennsylvania for a meeting tonight. So thanks for asking me to be with you.
That's okay. We have a lot to talk about. We didn't want to postpone it. So we have her in the car. Wherever we can get you, we have you. So will you explain to us your passion for genomics? We had a conversation about it. I know there's so much to discuss, but will you just talk about what inspired you and really what, determined you to look into this whole aspect of our DNA and, preventing disease? Prevention is what we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. I've had a lot of health issues. I started out as a childhood asthmatic and had to take a lot of steroids and antibiotics. And fortunately for me, my mom was a super health nut, and she had started the first food co-op in Northern California. And so I was really fortunate to be able to, be with a mom that was giving me good food, because I was getting just riddled with, medications. And then later in life, I ended up contracting Lyme disease. And so again, had to go through the whole medical system, which does not serve Lyme patients or anyone with these types of autoimmune conditions very well. Really don't have a lot of answers. So I really had to become my own advocate, like many of us are these days, pioneering what's out there to find out how can this body heal itself. And so that was really just because I was in crisis mode. So I had to figure it out, because I wasn't getting the answers, that I needed for me to feel comfortable that I was being taken care of properly, quite honestly.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's the short-sightedness of the medical community today. I'm not going to, talk bad about that, but unfortunately, it's so many times our doctors' hands are tied. There's limited amounts of information. People are, pushed into a corner with their options and their decisions through insurance, which is a whole other thing. And especially with Lyme patients, I mean, we're seeing that it's not even, shown as a disease. Insurance doesn't recognize it in most cases as a disease. So people are not finding that the help they need. So how can you talk about our DNA and inflammation and why this whole idea of genomics, we believe and we know, is the future, and how we're on the forefront of that as well, spearheading the movement?
Yes. So, I mean, you have to be pretty much checked out to not pay attention to even the publications over the last couple of years, all the main magazines that, most people that are moderately educated want to read about, Time Magazine, Smithsonian, Scientific American, all this stuff. I'm into this stuff. I'm a financial advisor, but I probably should have gone to become a PhD in molecular biology or something, because, I've gotten so intrigued by all this. But basically, there's this whole technology sector that started, let's call it, 30 years ago, where really the biggest industries were really built on computers, right? So the zeros and the ones, like the numbers. Now that's totally changed. All that has given us this place in time right now where they can actually use, because of the power of computers, they can actually look at they mapped out the human genome, in 2003, they mapped the whole thing out. So now they're just trying to understand the interrelationships of all those genes together, how that whole universe operates within, in this body that we're walking around in. And so that's called epigenetics, where you're actually looking at the the actual genes and how they work together and function together as like a machine, which is almost like a computer. So now we're so fortunate because all of this information is being mapped out and it's just being discovered today. So what we know for sure, 100% certainty, is that the foods and the lifestyle choices we make can change the actual expression of the genes. You're not necessarily changing the DNA, but you're changing the expression by the things that you do. So like eating a healthy diet, for me, it's more plant-based now. And if I'm going to eat meat or fish, it's going to be at a restaurant, it's like, what's the wild fish that you have right now? Otherwise, I'm not going to order it. Like, don't eat farm-raised fish. Don't eat any of that stuff. All that stuff's going to change the gene expression because your body can't recognize these foreign foods and things like that. So it's just making little choices and acknowledging that, in fact, our body literally is like a machine that we're going to operate. Are we going to take good care of that machine, or are we just going to let it go to crap, which is basically what most people are doing because they don't understand any of this stuff. They haven't been given this information, you know, and I've just been lucky because I was curious about it and I was open to listening to some people who had some interesting ideas on this. You know, probably 5-6 years ago, I started getting interested in this. And, you know, I just encourage everyone to be open to, you know, you don't know everything, and your doctor absolutely doesn't know everything. You know, you can't know it all. You can't. It's impossible right now. This is all being explored. So why not be open to this stuff? And, you know, and if somebody has something that you don't know about, you know, pay attention to it. So I'm sorry about that light on my face. Anyway, so, you know, I'm very passionate about this because, you know, we're just getting bad information.
We can tell.
We're getting bad information, and I'd love to talk to you about that too and what I'm doing about that.
Well, let's talk about the bad information. I mean, I always like to start everything off that we do on a positive note, but let's talk about one of the biggest epidemics that we're dealing with today, cancer. Let's talk about the genetic expression of inflammation and why it's so important to reduce oxidative stress and how
Daniel, help out here.
Affects our DNA.
Sorry, guys, I'm directing traffic. Yeah, so oxidative stress.
That's okay.
You know, the cancer situation, cancer really is not something that's being passed down. You know, even if it is, you can change. We were just talking earlier about how Angelina Jolie had, you know, double mastectomy because she had the genetic predisposition for BRCA1, BRCA2, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And she probably didn't need to do that, but that was a choice she made. You know, there's other stuff out there that can mitigate and downregulate those genes. And I'm taking something right now that's downregulating those two mutations, you know. I'm not worried about it because I'm taking care of that right now, reducing oxidative stress in the body, biohacking my body every day with foods and the things that I'm doing that I've learned about to be able to take control of this computer system called the human body. And cancer is exactly one of those things that we can really do a better job at being able to control whether that cancer comes out or not. We're responsible for that. We can't obviously get away from all the toxins. We can't get away from all the GMOs and the car and the stress of the phone and all the stuff that we're doing, as crazy entrepreneur type A's that we are. But at least we can take control to the best of our ability, some of these things that we can control. And that is, you know, a lot of stuff. So there's so much information out there, Jenny, about how we can change gene expression in the body, but I have to warn people because the internet is like the Wild West. So people go on there and they start looking up stuff that we might be suggesting. We're making suggestions for people, just giving them the information that we saw, and then they go, oh, well, I didn't like this one post, or, oh, you know, this isn't in long-term human studies. I'm like, really? Have you looked up the stuff that you're taking right now? Look at what that says online.
Haven't you heard everything on Google is 100% on point?
Exactly. It's like
I just had to throw that in there.
Exactly. It's like you take really intelligent people that you think are really smart friends of yours, and then you give them information. They're like, well, how come there's no long-term human studies, or why is this a mouse study, or why is, I'm like, really? Come on, you guys. You got to peel past the first page of Google. If you really want to take control and biohack your life, you're not going on the first page of Google. You're going to page 100. That's how much you're going to read about how to biohack your life.
So let's talk about the future of genetics, the future of nutrigenomics, and nutrigenomics specifically, because I know that even with pharmaceutical drugs, that can change your epigenetics as well. So let's talk about nutrigenomics and specifically the future of why this is important, why this is going to be the future of prevention, future of even in the healthcare system. They're going to have to determine this. There's going to be an uprising of people that want this information. So what can you give to us that is going to intrigue people to look into the information that we're sharing with them today?
Well, I'm a financial advisor, as you know. Had my securities in Series 7 of the NASD for almost 30 years. And so I've been able to look at companies. I also worked with companies that were privately owned and publicly traded when I was in my insurance and my financial services business. So I've always done that, and I studied business and accounting and all that, and it's just what I've done. And so when you have your eyeballs open, and like I was saying, if you read any kind of, trustworthy periodicals, you know that genetics and genomics is the next trillion-dollar industry. I mean, that's what it is. And so you're looking at all of the different areas within that, which is the first one is CRISPR. So that's the gene editing, right, where they're going to actually be able to take your genes, your DNA, and cut it like you would a piece of rope and put another piece of rope in there and connect it together. That's CRISPR. They're fighting over the patents for that. There's 2 different people fighting over the patents for that right now. Unbelievable what's going to be going on. We're going to be able to do so much more in the future with healing our bodies. But also then on the genetic front, we're looking at genomics, which is how all these things interact together. And one of those things is nutrigenomics, and how plants and dietary components change gene expression in the body. And that's what we can control, what we're putting into our bodies. That category alone is right now, just the nutraceutical part of it's about $30 billion a year. That thing is ready to explode like a rocket, because all of the science is going around. How can we look at different ingredients like turmeric or milk thistle or, whatever, alpha lipoic acid, N-acetylcysteine, all this stuff I've been taking for years for my Lyme disease. Now they're looking at synergy, putting things together like pharmaceuticals, or even pharmaceutical companies are also looking at finally some plant-based stuff, because they can't deny it anymore. And you know what? You can patent certain things if you put them together in a certain combination. So they're always, the pharmaceutical companies are always looking, what can I patent? The food companies, what can I patent? The way you grow food, we were talking about that. Can we patent a new way to grow food? They're looking at how can they make money off of this stuff without really thinking about how the cost of the expense of the health crisis in this country can bankrupt our country just from the Alzheimer's epidemic that we're in. So it's time for the companies to start looking at how can we mitigate the diseases, right? We can still make a lot of money on stuff. We have to save the planet, save the human race. There's so much opportunity in this. It's insane. And so I'm excited about it, because I was in the financial planning business. That was amazing. But I wanted to be in something that I could touch so many more people and also help my own life to be better. And I'm so excited about what we're learning, because I feel like I'm part of a solution, but I'm also living and experiencing it out loud every day. Being able to just be a force for change, and also to be able to educate people to make this world a better place, because people need to know about this, Jenny.
14. Absolutely. Girl, I speak it every day, and, change is not going to start from the top down. It is going to start from the bottom up, and it's going to be an uprising of people that are unwilling to be stuffed into the standard of care in this country. And until we come out, people like you, Amy, and educate and speak with a voice and empower people to know that nutrigenomics and genomics is the future of where we're going, this is going to be the start of something great. And I truly believe what we're doing here is changing the world one person at a time. So let's talk about what is the most powerful thing you've seen in nutrigenomics and the science, maybe that can, intrigue somebody enough to look into what it is that you and I are doing today.
Absolutely. Well, I was taking a lot of supplements for a long time and spending a ton of money on them, and they did help me, I have to say. But again, if you take too much of anything, too much of something's, not necessarily a good thing. So it was so expensive, and I had to pay out of pocket to try to see if I was toxic in different areas. And so finally, I just kind of went off of everything, and I found out about something that was very simple, and it was all natural, and it was plants that were combined together to activate certain genes express certain genes that actually help the body reduce that oxidative stress we were kind of talking about. We didn't really get to that. But oxidative stress is a rusting phenomena in the body, and it essentially is just it's just from breathing in air and having the body take that oxygen and is creating a rust inside the body, and it's really the root cause of most diseases. So we need to turn that rust, we need to turn that heat down in the cells, and that's really what all the vitamins and antioxidants are supposed to try to do, but they're really not effective. We're looking at the wrong antioxidants for the last 50 years. We were looking at, you know, at these 1-to-1 ratio antioxidants that are very ineffective. It's like the old IBM mainframe computer compared to the iPhone that we're using right now. And now there's even more technology that's showing that we have so much more power in our hands with these plants. So we're really going to be able to learn a lot more. But what we know right now is there's certain proteins that can be activated through plant-based nutrition and plant-based supplementation. And that's where I went with it. I went off of all the sort of synthetic stuff that was, a lot of it is just made in laboratories, and I went more with natural. And this was much better because my body recognized that. And that was why I had such a really remarkable healing experience with using activators instead of antioxidants. So I went to an activator type of a protocol, and that's where I'm at right now. And the other side of it is, it doesn't work for everyone right away. So people need to understand everyone's DNA. You know, we're all very similar, but for each of us, we're at different, it's almost like our body has a different constitution. Like some people are just fried, absolutely fried, and their constitution is just not strong. So when they try to this approach of activation of your proteins, you're going to be different than what I had and what you might have if you tried, when you tried this. Everyone's different, so they have to give their body time and to understand that it doesn't mean it's not working. It just means that your body and your constitution is just weaker and more tender than somebody else's. So you have to give this approach time. Don't expect like a medication where you just take like a pain reliever or an aspirin and all of a sudden it's gone. That's not gonna happen here. We're talking about a lifetime of healing the body, and that's where your approach should be. And my approach certainly has been, like with my son who has had severe ADHD since he was, in kindergarten. He's just now starting to come into his own at 18 years old with a lot of this biohacking we've been doing, So it's just, if we took him off of this stuff after the first year, he wouldn't be going to the University of California. He wouldn't even be getting into a school like that, So it's just really the miracle what the body will do if you give it what it needs. And that's where, the genomics and the nutrigenomics story is so powerful, because we are giving the body what it needs, what it naturally wants, and it uses up enough of it that it needs, and then it doesn't use the rest of it. If it doesn't need it, it just doesn't use it. And so it's not like all these vitamins that are actually toxic to the body. You have to get rid of any waste of whatever's residues left over. And so it's very, very toxic to the kidney and the liver and stuff like that. And also the brain, which this epidemic of Alzheimer's, because we have all this leftover toxins, and this stuff's getting stored in the brain, and it's cancer mutations.
Heavy metals.
All of it.
Heavy metals.
All of it.
Yeah.
Artificial sweeteners.
Well, people can go to their doctor, Amy. They can go to their doctor and get a real great injection on the flu shot of great heavy metals if they want to. Today.
I know.
I'm sorry, I had to throw that in.
No, I know, but a lot of people, like I had a conversation with my son yesterday, and he said, he talked about, he just had to get a shot to go to college. And he said, oh crap, I have all this heavy metal. And this other kid said, oh no, my grandfather told us there's no more heavy metals in those. But they changed the way they could label the heavy metals in vaccinations. At the FDA, literally changed.
It's the same as high fructose corn syrup.
They changed the definition of heavy metal. So it doesn't say it's heavy metals anymore, but it still is. It's just a different name and a different definition now.
Right. Well, and this is where it starts. I mean, unless people educate themselves, you don't know this stuff.
No.
And this is why I'm always saying, advocate, educate. Don't just take things for face value. This is the future of what we're teaching our children. And like you said, this is the future of not destroying the human race. And until we rise up and we educate and we empower people, I feel like when they're empowered, that's where the hope comes from. That is where the change is going to start. And so I thank you so much. What last words? I think you've given us so much, and I could talk to you literally for like hours about this subject, but what last words, what hope can you inspire in people today? What do people need to hear before we hop off on this broadcast?
Just, be nice to yourself, be kind to yourself. These changes don't have to happen overnight, but seriously, you guys, take responsibility for your own health because nobody else is going to. You have to be your own cheerleader, your own advocate, and those little baby steps you can start with. The number one is get off of artificial sweeteners, because when you look at the cancer rates and the rates of obesity from the time they started introducing artificial sweeteners, they have added sweeteners. And they're so toxic to the body. So I just wanted to say that to people because I know a lot of people, I'm seeing people on here and I know tons of them are using them. And you guys, it's so bad. So if that's the only thing you do today, get off of artificial sweeteners and, start there and then plug into our next call or send me a message, send Jenny a message or whoever invited you on here because change your life. So thank you, Jenny. I love you.
Absolutely.
You're awesome. And I'm so happy about your mom getting better.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow. We got a Facebook Live coming up that's going to knock people's socks off. It truly is incredible. And really the path that we're walking with that is advocacy and education. And to think it could have ended up a different way. There is hope for people with cancer. There's hope for people with diseases that are ravaging their body. You just have to ask the questions and you'll get the answers. And Amy and I are happy to do that. So I want to thank you, Amy, for hopping on. I have so much fun with you as always. You are a rock star, a beautiful woman, an empowered woman, and I love that about you. So, guys, if you have questions, comment below.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Have a great day. Take care.
Bye.